A lot of performance, a pretty reasonable price tag. That's the OnePlus Nord 4. Now, I did cover this phone when it launched in China as the Ace 3V, but as it went global, OnePlus have made some changes and I've been using this Nord 4, the global version, as my primary for over a week now. In today's video, I'm gonna share with you what I think this phone's strengths and weaknesses are. If this is your first time here, or in case you just can't remember, my name's Ash, you're watching C4 Retech, and let's get started. The big change from the Chinese SKU is the fact that the Ace 3V looked like this, and the global Nord 4 looks like this, which is definitely an upgrade. Instead of a glass back, we get a mix of metal and glass, and the sides too are metal here. The back looks great. Initially, I felt the glass up top looked a little cheap, but it kinda grew on me. I ended up liking it. Apart from this green, OnePlus also offers this phone in a black as well as silver. If you ask me, I'd say the silver, it's easily the best looking SKU this time given the back. It has a textured look. Don't get me wrong, it's just a look. The Nord 4, regardless of the color you choose, it's a pretty slippery phone. Now, metal backs and sides have a reputation of affecting reception, and if you're worried about that, don't be. The reception's been fine. I've had no weird drops or weak signal issues. Metal also means the phone's almost 200 grams heavy, which is not too bad these days, but despite the sides being rounded off at the edges, this is still at the heart of it a pretty boxy phone. So it's not as comfortable as some of its competitors, but it looks good, is functional, offers an IP65 rating, there's the alert slider, and even an IR blaster to control appliances. So there's more good here than bad in my humble opinion. To the front, we get a 6.74-inch Fluid AMOLED panel that's been covered by Panda glass for protection. This is a 1.5K panel, so it's pretty sharp with a 450 pixels per inch pixel density. It's a flat panel and the bezels, they've been kept minimal, almost symmetric, though the bottom, if you look at it, it's slightly thicker. Now, while this is a 120Hz panel, there's no LTPO support. It supports HDR, but not on Netflix. And the brightness, OnePlus claims it's 2150 nits, but that's only for HDR. In my testing, it output about 1250 nits under auto mode, which is fine for outdoor usage. It's also worth noting that there are stereo speakers and they sound rich and loud. Now, as good as these things are, the biggest selling point for this phone, the Nord 4, it's got to be the chip on the inside. OnePlus have gone with the Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 3, and guys, honestly, I think this is the best Gen 3 SoC this time around. I don't mean it's the most powerful, because that would be the 8 Gen 3. But the 7 Plus Gen 3 offers you the best performance per dollar. It's the best value. Now, to explain this better, let me quickly cut to a short clip from my Ace 3V video. Now let's bring the 8 Gen 3 into this comparison and things will get clearer. What Qualcomm have done this time is take the same flagship cores from the 8 Gen 3 but implement them in a way similar to the 8 Gen 2. So we do get the new X4 Prime core, the new A720 performance cores and the A520 efficiency cores, but the breakup, the split up, it's not 1 plus 5 plus 2 like the 8 Gen 3, but it's 1 plus 4 plus 3 like the 8 Gen 2. Now, of course, the clock speeds are lower than the 8 Gen 2, but the new technology used is why the 7 Plus Gen 3 CPU performance almost as good as the 8 Gen 2. But once again, the GPU, it's definitely not as good as on the 8 Gen 2. The Adreno 732 here is, as the name indicates, a step up from the Adreno 730 that we got on the 8 Gen 1. The 7 Plus Gen 3 here is paired with up to 16 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM and 512 gigs of UFS 4.0 storage. The base 128 is UFS 3.1 though. Here's where I noticed another difference between the Ace 3V and the Nord 4. I told you guys OnePlus had prioritized performance over thermals, so the Ace 3V, it ran hot, but it didn't really throttle. Here with the Nord 4, they've kind of flipped that script. It runs very cool, and that's because it throttles more. I'm not sure the reasoning here. Personally, if you ask me, I'd want the best performance even if it meant the phone got a little toasty. What about you? What would you pick between a phone that kind of gets hot but doesn't throttle and a phone that runs cool but does throttle? What would be your choice? Let me know in the comments below. Now, though there is throttling, most games do run fine. You might have to make some allowances, some compromises at times, but for the most part, unless you're focusing on very demanding titles, it's fine. And no matter how you use the phone, it should easily last you through a day of heavy use given the 5500 mAh battery on the inside. Now here's something a little iffy. Now this is what I got in the box and what you will get in the box if you're buying this phone in India. But in the Middle East and multiple other markets, OnePlus have started to cut out the charger, which is sad. Anyways, using this 100-watt charger, you should be able to get a 50% charge in 12 minutes and a full charge in under 30. Now on the software front, we get more iffiness. There is bloat, quite a fair bit of bloat. At this point, OnePlus is pretty much Oppo and Realme in terms of software. Oxygen OS is Oxygen OS in name only. But yep, there is a but. Once you turn off a few notifications, uninstall the bloat, tinker around a bit with the settings, the user experience is fine. The haptics, they're good. The alert slider, as always, it's a pleasure to use. The Nord 4, it was very responsive. Also, OnePlus promises 4 years of Android version upgrades and 6 years of security patches for this, which is the best update policy for a phone in this price segment. Now, there are some AI features that OnePlus have added too. That includes AI audio summaries, summarizing articles on the browser. Then we have AI eraser. If you want to erase something from a picture you've already shot, there's AI smart cutout. They all work fine. The implementation seems good. Talking about images, we have a dual camera setup to the back. Again, things get slightly iffy. The primary sensor here is a 50 megapixel Sony Litia Lite 600 paired with the f1.8 lens that has OIS. The Lite 600, it's a half-inch sensor. The Nord 3 had the IMX890, which is a 1x1.56 inch sensor. So the sensor size has gotten smaller here, meaning the primary camera looks like a downgrade. But OnePlus seemed to have compensated for it with the improved ISP and the processing, because the images themselves, they were good, rich with excellent dynamic range. Under low light, I was actually surprised how well they turned out. See how there's a good amount of detail here and the noise has also been kept minimal? With video, this phone can shoot 4K 60 and the footage is stable with good detail and dynamic range. The secondary is an 8 megapixel ultra wide, which is okay, gets the job done with a slight variance in colors. For selfies, OnePlus have provided a 16 megapixel f2.4 shooter, and it's pretty good for stills as well as portraits. As you can see, video though is sadly restricted to 1080-30, which for a phone in this price in 2024. Talking about misses, let's address the green line issue. If you're on social media, I'm sure you'd have seen people talk about OnePlus and green lines. Sadly, this has been blown out of proportion. I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm just saying it's not happening only with OnePlus. Basically, there seem to be some issues with certain Samsung panels from a couple of years back, and as a result, pretty much any brand that's used these screens are now facing issues with them failing. On paper, OnePlus seems to be dealing with it well, offering free lifetime replacements for any device affected by it, in India at least. But when I dug in, I noticed that a lot of times they don't actually have the replacement panels available and instead have been offering customers vouchers, discount coupons to upgrade to a newer model. That doesn't feel very right to me. Yeah, it is better than, say, Samsung brushing everything under the rug. Yeah, sure. But I think OnePlus ought to do better. Now, if you've had a green line issue on your OnePlus phone, how has your experience with service been? Let me know in the comments. Now, coming back, as we've been seeing throughout this video, the Nord 4 has its fair share of pros and cons, but its biggest pro is something we've not seen yet: pricing. The Nord 4 starts at 30,000 rupees in India and is available even cheaper with some card offers on the OnePlus website. Pricing in other markets seems competitive too. So for this asking price, the Nord 4, it feels like a very strong offering. If you aren't really looking for a gaming phone per se, but you want a powerful device that's snappy, responsive, has competent cameras, excellent battery life, and gets 4 years of support, the OnePlus Nord 4 might be good for you. Anyway, that's my take. So what do you think about this phone? Sound off in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Ash out.